All right, let's do it live on a Reaction Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z. I got to tell you. Put that hat on, will you? All right, or there's fine. I'm going to tell you something right now that probably on a short list of the best offensive game plans I've seen in 5 to 10 years was orchestrated by the Naval Academy.
That's right.
On Saturday. That is a game that is usually won.
Oh, did it? They did.
Oh, they did. Turns out they played football in Annapolis as well.
The 22nd ranked Army team.
Brian Newberry and that Naval Academy operation. Blake Horvath, good Columbus kid at quarterback, 200 yards rushing in that game. That game is usually pretty straightforward, right? It really is. It's a yard. It's 3 yards. It's kind of what it is. It was a bag of tricks for Navy.
I was going to say, you not only offensive game plan, but we'd have to include special teams game plan as well. When you are running with what is that guy, a defensive tackle?
I know. It's awesome.
It's unbelievable.
Great game.
Yeah, that was great.
Really good.
Great pageantry.
Really good. I love them both.
Awesome
I love both
on a Saturday.
teams. I actually had Bryson Daly, the coach or the quarterback at Army. I had him third on my Heisman ballot. It basically ended up being I went Hunter, Genty, and then Bryson was third. Pretty kind of a wash between Ward and Dylan Gabriel, and just a historic season at West Point. And he was awesome throughout the whole year. He did not particularly play well in this game as a quarterback for Navy did, but that was fun.
That was fun. It was a great weekend. We had our friend, my great friend, Dabo was in town this weekend.
I didn't know that
Dabo was here.
What was he? In from Brisbane?
In from Australia
He's Brisbane, right?
Yeah. With Amity and the twin boys. They have 20-month-old twins, and they brought a nanny and then his niece to obviously help with the whole operation. But they're all in New York, and he flew into Cleveland Saturday to come to the Chiefs game.
And we put on a show for Dabo and the boys.
So Dabo and I, the night before, we watched some Army-Navy. We had
you had him over?
Oh, yeah, he stayed over.
What?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Dabo came.
Like a bed and breakfast over there.
He stayed over. We had the full Zagura Steakhouse experience. We had some great wines. We had great night. And then he came with me early in the morning to the game. Got him credentialed up, and he was walking around with me on the field pregame, watching me do all my stuff. Came and checked out the booth. Saw his mates Gibbe and Clay and Tequila Fila, because he partied with us in L.A.
Oh, that's right. I remember there was
him and his boys. He was with his with Fallon and Slater and his Australian brothers, his mates. Yeah.
Oh, I love
We had some great expressions last night. Not one word of a lie. That's a great one. Now, if you tell us, I'm going to tell you this. Not one word of a lie. And then
not one word of a lie.
Not one word of a lie. And then you say what you're going to say.
Not one word of a lie.
Not one word of a lie.
I like that.
A lot of I reckon.
I wish Mate took off more.
Mate's
around
great.
here. Mate's really good.
Bloke,
I think's tougher here.
Yeah.
If you mishear it.
I guess, yeah.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Mate a lot.
If somebody's like, wait, they're all grogged up. You're on the grog.
Not one word of a lie.
Not one word of a lie.
That's pretty good. That's back. There was a time when people would say, can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
And my comeback to that would be, are you lying the rest of the time?
Right.
Is this the first honest words you've spoken to
and
me?
this has the same.
Because it became like a crutch. Can I be honest with you?
This evokes the same.
Keep lying.
If there's not one word of a lie. Then
not one word of a lie.
We have to be on alert the other times.
All the rest.
So he pre-game walked around, got a chance to say hi to Kareem Hunt, which was great. And then I saw Kelsey, and I'd met Travis a few times before, and obviously he golfed this year with The Miz at the celebrity event, the Tahoe one.
Yeah.
It was the threesome was Miz, Jason, and Travis.
Oh, that's fun.
They had the best time together. So
of course they did.
I went out there. I was, he was like around the 40-yard line, he was just chilling. And I walked up to him and, introduced myself. He said, "Oh, yeah, good to see you again." Talked about the Miz, blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing I know, not one word of a lie, Dabo's like, "Good day, mate.
Getting in.
I'm here from Australia. I'm a huge fan of yours. I listen to the podcast."
Oh, wow.
And Kelsey's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's amazing." He goes, "I love it down under." And then Dabo was like, over the moon, loved it. So we're in the car. He's like calling everybody. He's like, "Not one word of a lie, mate. I was shaking hands with Travis Kelsey on the field pregame." I was like, "Dabo, you're a legend."
That is. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
He was like, pinch me. This isn't real. I'm like,
is there a moment when you are, and because of what you do, especially with now, you're, every Sunday you're around the greatest players in the world. Mahomes is out there, like you get used to that. Is there a moment when you walk up to Kelsey or even afterwards, and he's going to be a gold jacket? He's a first ballot gold jacket.
He's the greatest receiving tight end ever. Yep. Period.
He's also dating the most famous woman on the planet.
Yeah.
So there's that dynamic too.
Yeah. No, he could have been nicer. He recognized me.
Yeah.
Which I was pleased with, and then he was super nice. Yeah. I've hung
he's always done like the home run derbies and all that stuff in the summer here. Yeah. Like he's.
There was one night after a Cavs playoff game that I ended up in the back room at the Barley House. Miz was in town with Miz, sitting at a table that was with the Miz and Ric Flair, Kelsey, and then Shaq was also there that night walking around, who is still, I just can't even believe how big he is. Like, it's hard to get your head around how just ginormous of a man he is. But I was just like, this is nuts. So, yeah, we had that one night where I actually got to actually talk to Kelsey for a little bit, but it was me. One of these does not belong. Me.
Yeah.
I'm the one. Miz, Ric Flair, and Kelsey.
That is great. That's great. Yeah. That's very good. Jade is saying that we are top blokes, not one word of a lie, mate.
Not one word of a lie.
Well, she would
She's
know.
right as rain.
She would know how to do it. What are we doing here? Do you want to do this? Hot Topics today presented by University Hospitals, a federal healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. 21-7. We dropped to 3-11 on the season, sir.
Not good. I mean, not good. We lead the league in turnovers over the last 7 games by a wide margin. I'm pretty sure we have 19 turnovers in the last 7 games. We had 8 in the first 7 games. 19.
I heard on the radio broadcast, which I was listening to post early games with Bootsy and pre late game with Beamsy, that quarterback alone was 9 in the last 3.
Yeah. And that's that's not a way to win football games, unfortunately. I mean, here's the crazy thing about it is the Kansas City Chiefs came into this game, and it was one of my favorite stats before the game. There were 5 teams in the NFL that had only 10 takeaways, 10 or fewer on the season.
Okay.
The Chiefs were 12-1.
Yep.
The other 4 teams on that list were a combined 10-42.
Yeah, you have
so
to
you
turn
don't
it over to
win.
Right.
You don't win, and they had a negative turnover differential. The only team that's ever started 12-1, other than the 76 Raiders, to have a negative turnover differential. And then in one game, they went from having 10 in 13 games to 16 in 14 games. They went from -4 in the turnover differential to +2 in one game. And, it was just hard to watch. I mean, the Browns offense, and I'll say this, if you wanted to say, okay, find me some positive things to talk about. The Browns defense, 7 3-and-outs. 7 3-and-outs, including 4 of the first 5 possessions of the game for the Chiefs, and then, obviously you force 3 and out in the opening possession, and then you fumble the punt away. I mean, that's the second week in a row we've done that.
Right.
That leads to a short field touchdown, but their other 4 possessions were 3 for 7, 3 for 9, 3 for 4, and they had, I guess, one other one that wasn't. So they had 1, 2, 3, 4. Just ridiculous. I guess there were 6 3-and-outs. There was 1 4-and-out. So, honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. To turn the ball over 6 times against the defending 2-time Super Bowl champions,
extraordinary,
and to lose 21-7 is not terrible.
I thought the defense was extraordinary, and I didn't expect to win this game. I mean, Kansas City was 12-1. I didn't anticipate that being the case, and I thought the defense did more than enough. Now, I would say that
they had one drive of over 50 yards in the game. Period. That's it.
There is something off between Patrick Mahomes and his receivers. I've never seen him miss deep balls the way he did, especially in the first half of this game.
And
there were guys that had a step, and he just missed them. There was the one, he had the guy on the crosser. Was that in the first half?
There were 2 that he threw deep one of them, Kelsey, was the one that he threw in the end zone where he just threw it wildly.
Yeah.
Kelsey was at R20. And he might have scored. I mean, there was nobody near him, and he just stood there like this after the play.
It's wide open.
Could have been. Yeah,
it's weird. I don't know what's going on down the field. I don't know if he's frustrated that he hasn't gotten a lot of those or what it is, but it's like he's trying to force it, and he just wasn't sharp.
Their short passing game is so good. I'll tell you, watching him warm up, so the people that I've been the most in awe of in a pregame warm-up situation over the last, I don't know, call it 12 years, the ones that immediately come to my mind was the first time I was on the field with Cam Newton. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a big dude.
Herbert, because he's giant and he just throws the prettiest ball you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer was unbelievable throwing the football. Unbelievable.
He played us with Arizona and lit us up. And I just remember watching him in the pregame. And actually, there's a very cool article out there for people who just want to understand, quarterback play and things like that, that I'm pretty sure was Peter King did that was with Palmer, and it was the whole week of prep for our game.
Was with that. It was in Sports Illustrated
it
when
was,
that still mattered.
And it was for our game.
And it was for our game,
So,
yes.
And he lit us up. He was great in that game. But I remember watching him, and I'm like, every ball is perfect.
Yep.
Every single ball is perfect in warm-ups. Perfect spirals, perfect. Mahomes throws the ball completely differently than anybody I've ever seen. But the whip that he gets once his elbow kind of his arm contorts back like this, and the whip he gets on the ball, it's nuts. And I was able to stand. He was throwing from the dog pound end zone, so I was standing at the edge of the dog. So I'm 10 yards. He's right there. Just watching it was absurd. He still has all the talent in the world. They're running a different offense. They're doing different things.
Yeah.
And I just also, part of me feels like, and I think it's a dangerous way to maybe go about things, but it almost feels like when you watch them that they have no problem slow playing it or not really doing much, just winning, and then that perhaps when we get in the postseason, they're going to unleash a bunch of stuff that we haven't seen yet. That's kind of the way that it feels.
Just doing enough to win. The thing that's going to be critical for them, especially with the Mahomes injury, is Buffalo is they're 11-3.
Yep.
And Kansas City's 13-1.
Yep.
But Buffalo has the tiebreaker. Buffalo's next three are twice against the Jets and once against the Patriots.
Yep.
So they're winning out.
Yep.
And so Buffalo is going to go 14-3. So Kansas City has to go 15-2.
Yep.
To be the one.
Yep.
Which they can do, but their games are all tough. It's Houston, it's Pittsburgh. And it's Denver.
Yeah.
That's their three. And they got to win 2 out of 3 to ensure that they get the 1 seed. And I think they want the 1 seed. You want the bye.
Absolutely want the 1 seed. You want the bye, and you want
health and all that.
Home field,
right? So they've got to win 2 of their next 3. And but I agree with your assessment that it feels like they're just kind of we're good.
The thing that I was disappointed from a fan standpoint, and I can tell you that it meant something to him because I talked to him about it before the game, was Travis Kelce needed 1 touchdown reception to become the Chiefs' all-time leader in touchdown receptions.
Okay.
And if he had done that, not only would he have been the Chiefs' all-time leader in touchdown receptions, he would have joined Antonio Gates as the only 2 tight ends in NFL history to be their franchise's leaders in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. And I think he wanted to do that in Cleveland. And it felt like early they were trying to get him the ball, and then it just kind of completely went away, which I was obviously I wanted us to win the game, but since we did not, I was a little bit bummed for him because he's a great Cleveland guy, represents the city very, very well. And I think it would have been cool for him to be able to do that in Cleveland. And by the way, the first time in his career against the Browns, regular season or postseason, that he did not score a touchdown.
Yeah. All right,
listen.
The offensive side, Jameis is 1 for 1 touchdown to interception at the moment on the season, right? Is he 13 touchdowns, 12 picks, I think?
Listen to this stretch that we had. So he throws an interception. So we'll call that the last play of the second drive of the game, which is an interception into the end zone.
Yeah.
Okay, so from that play, so we'll count that as 1 play interception for no yards. 3, 6, 10. I won't count kneeling at the end of the half. I don't think that's fair. 3, 6, 10, 11, 12. Our next, including that, 3, 6, 10, 11, 12. So 13 plays, including the one before. 13 plays that went for 7, 16, 22 yards, and 3 turnovers. That's what we did from the with a minute and 35 to go in the first quarter to 11 minutes to go in the third quarter. We had 13 plays for 22 yards and 3 turnovers. I mean, it's crazy that we lost 21-7, honestly.
Yeah, really just Mahomes' inaccuracy in our defense were kind of the things that did it, because it was it's really bad ball. It's bad ball. That's the thing that, like, everything that Kevin's teams were about and everything that this operation was about from the time they've got here is disciplined football, take care of the football, scheme it open. This sets up this in the third. This we do a little wrinkle on this differently than we did on tape 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
All of those type of things, there's none of that. Now, we are a wildly undisciplined team. We are incredibly turnover prone. I don't even know what you hang your hat on that we do good offensively.
Jerry Jeudy. That's what we do. Jerry
you
Jeudy.
Feed him 14 times. I mean,
think
you
about
have
this.
to. Like, imagine if Jerome Ford doesn't have the 60-yard run.
Just think about this. We threw 34 passes.
Yeah.
So 14 went to Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
That resulted in 11 completions for 108 yards. The other 20 passes, who went to everybody else on the football team, went for 9 receptions for 56 yards.
Yeah, you have that right. Yeah.
So what do we do well in offense? Jerry Jeudy. We do Jerry Jeudy. We do, and by the way, Jerry Jeudy. What was weird to me about this one is the interceptions. Unfortunately, we've become accustomed to those with Jameis. He didn't see it well either. There were the fourth down. Mike Woods was wide open, right in his line of sight. There was one where after he'd thrown the pick deep, he didn't throw it deep. He threw a dig on the right to Elijah Moore, where there were like 3 guys there. McDuffie knocked it away. Jerry Jeudy had won on a post one-on-one against a rookie fourth-round safety.
And just didn't see it, yeah.
Just throw it out there. It would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
So that was tough. Obviously, you missed, David Njoku, and you missed Cedric Tillman. But, yeah, if there's one, what do we do well offensively? It's Jerry Jeudy. And Jerome Ford's had a nice season for himself. He really has. I mean, when you saw what sucks about, Nick getting hurt again, is that his yards per carry were starting to increase. 4.4 last week was the season high, 4.6 this week. You started to see like maybe a little bit more of that burst. It was kind of coming back. This won't set him back long term, I don't think, from the way that it sounded like he might, according to Stefanski, I don't think they think he needs surgery. So he'll be ready to go next year. And as we talked about all along, kind of next year is when we'll see what he is. But, Fortunately and unfortunately, Jameis has unfortunately been basically what he's been for his career, which is lots of big plays, some exciting offense, but also then too many turnovers. But if we take anything from this stretch, like he really unlocked Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, and I think it improved our offensive line play to know that a quarterback was going to be where they were protecting.
Yep.
That's why I don't take back anything I said when in regard to Jameis when we said. I said last week, said for the last couple of weeks, he's the perfect quarterback at the right time. Like, he's fun. His teammates like him. He throws it. He makes you defend every blade of grass. He gives the offensive line a known quantity to protect. So I get it. And it's worked in the sense that it's made some games fun. This was the first time, really, where it just wasn't fun. It can be fun, and you throw some interceptions and a loss, but you go up and down the field for 300 yards, then okay, that's living.
Sure.
This wasn't that at all. And this was a really negative offensive performance. And I was listening to you guys on the call, and DTR gets in, and then he throws a pick, and it's. I don't know. That's the thing that I think is really difficult for the franchise right now, and I think it's really difficult for the fan base right now, because if everybody was hooked up to a lie detector test, you really would just like this done. That's where we're at 3-11.
I mean, I'm curious to see, again, some of the young guys going forward, but yeah, this season
Mike Hall
for
was
2024 is not. Mike Hall's been good. Isaiah McGuire's good. I thought Cam Mitchell played well. I thought Miles Harden actually looked like he belonged out there. The quarterback situation, and all along what I thought we kind of needed was an extended look at DTR. He's turned the ball over a lot in his young career.
Yeah.
But this was a tough situation. And then it goes back to what undid him when he actually made, I thought, a big-time throw on a 4th and 11, stepped up in the pocket, drilled it to Mike Woods, first down. We get a pre-snap procedure penalty. We lead the league in those. We have 13.
See, that's not what Stefanski's teams have been, and that's what we are this year.
No, and no, we lead the league. It's the most that anybody's had, most pre-snap procedural penalties that any team has had this century. So we're an outlier of outliers there. And then, that's a tough situation there, not to excuse that it was an interception, but you're down 14 and you have to throw the ball. They know you're throwing it. You have to throw it in. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to see what he looks like for a couple of games, and if it's bad, then I'd say give Bailey Zappi a look. I don't know.
Give him a game, give Zappi a game.
You got 3 left.
Give them all a game. I mean, let them play.
At this point, the one – you're looking for bright spots. We talked about the defense, talked about the young guys. I think Isaiah McGuire and Mike Hall are making cases, and I know it's limited in the sample size of Mike Hall. It's not as limited with Isaiah McGuire anymore. That like Isaiah McGuire, you can, I think, pencil him in as your starter opposite Myles Garrett next year. Like I think he's playing.
Unless you go that way in the draft.
He's that good.
Yeah.
Sure, but I don't know that you maybe
a bigger.
You have him, you've got Alex Wright coming back, and you have Obo. That's still not a bad.
Yeah, that's all right.
That would be one of the rooms with the least amount of concerns headed into next year.
Yeah,
for your team. But obviously, if there's a stud, you go get a superstar. But your punter's been great. Borges has been awesome.
I'll tell you something else. And I was watching in between driving. I DVR'd it and I watched it. Most of the second all the way to the midway through the 4th. I watched, and I understand they're not giving you a full stadium, but it seemed like the crowd was pretty good.
The crowd was
for
good.
A garbage day.
Yeah,
tough weather. Definitely
good.
Good. It did stop raining.
It did.
There was a stretch,
but then it came back
brutal.
At the end pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. In the morning it was like grapple, and then it turned to stop, and then it rained from there on out. But I mean that to go down there and do it, God bless you, because it's tough. It's tough, and that's a tough performance. You mentioned the Nick Chubb foot injury. It's just God Almighty, man. It seems like it's as good a news as you can get on a broken foot. Might not have to have surgery, those type of things. But it just sucks that Nick's has to deal with anything from an injury standpoint after what he went through last year.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think again the good news is that it allows him more time to get everything right. It should not have any lingering effects, and it will allow him to, I think really come back in next year ready to roll, which is good. And I think we always talked about the 2025 season with Nick Chubb is going to be, that's what we're going to see where he is relative to Nick Chubb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Relative to the standard of incredible excellence that he set for the Browns with the 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 5 yards a carry every season, the 4 straight Pro Bowls, all of it. What percentage of that Nick Chubb will we be able to get back? And hopefully it's a high percentage. And this won't deter that. I mean, I know that questions were asked today, and we'll hear Stefanski's press conference later on. But why didn't you shut him down? Like the guy didn't rehab and work that hard to get to come back and do what he wanted to play football. To just be like, yeah, we're not going to let you play football.
No, of course not. No.
And it seemed like a pretty freak thing, honestly.
Yeah, and when he get the foot injury.
I mean, if it's from the clip that everybody's showing where he just is walking forward.
Yeah. No. Well, that's what I guess in my head, and I'm not Dr. Voos, won't pretend to be, but when you work to rehab something as hard as he does, you do wonder if other things become stressed.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a common sense thing. And that's what I thought when I heard the diagnosis of it all. So there you go. You got 3 left. You're at Cincinnati this week, and then you got that's not going to be Sunday Night Football, right? That'll be flexed out. I know it's not official, but that's going to be flexed out. Us against the Dolphins here in Week 17.
We should know tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
would
just common sense.
This moving.
Yeah, that game would be moved on Sunday Night Football.
By the way,
we have the Ravens to close it all out in Baltimore.
We moved from Fox to CBS for this week. By the way, I don't know if you saw that, Gibbe.
For Cincinnati?
Uh-huh.
So we're to CBS?
So now we're a CBS game.
Well, I mean, I can tell you we've had a couple luminaries on the TV side that have been in the broadcast booth the last 2 weeks that are none too pleased with how the league is handling TV assignments.
Let me tell you something right now. I'm looking at this schedule. They made a mistake taking the Broncos-Chargers off of Sunday. Our game still would have gotten tons of views on Thursday. Would not have been a problem, and it would have been probably a
fun game.
Broncos-Chargers is the best game on Sunday because Houston Texans, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens are Saturday.
That was Goodell sticking it to college football.
Listen to your Sunday lineup.
By the way, that Steelers-Ravens game's on Fox, not CBS.
Fox, and it is,
right.
and if
because that makes sense.
If the other one's on NBC, right?
NBC.
Peacock,
If the Steelers win, they win the division. Sunday, December 22nd, Giants at Falcons.
Oof.
Cards at Panthers.
Oh my God.
Lions at Bears.
That's probably your best.
Browns at Bengals. Titans at Colts. Rams at Jets. Eagles at Commanders. That's the best game of the weekend.
Eagles, Commies, yeah.
Yeah, that's two playoff teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's at 1.
So that could go to Sunday night. Commies, Eagles.
No, this is all the weekend
Christmas.
before.
This is this weekend.
Yeah. This weekend.
Nothing can move this weekend.
Oh, this is for this Sunday. I thought you were talking about the following.
No,
okay.
I'm saying this weekend.
This weekend. Okay.
So the best game on, and that's a Fox game, is Eagles-Washington. 4:05 Vikings-Seahawks, which is probably next close, but that's a 4:05. Your 4:25 options are Patriots-Bills.
Oh, my gosh.
Jags-Raiders. Niners-Dolphins. And Sunday Night Football's Bucks-Cowboys. Monday Night Football's Saints-Packers.
Oh, my gosh. Just take it off. So what Goodell did to stick it to college football is he took two of his 3 best games from Sunday and played them Saturday to win head-to-head against college football. That's what he did.
But they just should have kept Browns-Bengals at 8:15 on Thursday night.
Lovely.
You could have done Eagles, Commies, National Fox at 1.
Yeah.
And then done Broncos, Chargers as the national CBS at 4:25.
Yeah. That would have done it too. Yeah.
What are they going to play at 4:25? I mean, Niners, Dolphins, they're both eliminated.
Both out of it, yeah.
Patriots,
the
Bills?
Dolphins aren't out yet.
What?
Dolphins
are technically still in, but it's nearly impossible.
Come on.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Hey, come on.
Hey.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's a wild slate.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough sledding on that side of things. All right, those are your hot topics of the day. We're presented by University Hospital, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Coming up next, Coach Stefanski from the podium. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Leaf Filter, the official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. Go to leaffilter.com/GoBrowns to schedule your free gutter inspection and to receive your exclusive promo offer. That is leaffilter.com/GoBrowns. Visit today. Now we head to the podium, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here is Coach Stefanski.
Okay, injury.
You guys are down 13.5.
Dates from yesterday. Like I told you guys, obviously, disappointed for Nick, but I know he'll bounce back and he'll attack his rehab. So with the game, obviously feel the same way as I felt yesterday. Really disappointed in turning the ball over 6 times. You are not going to beat anybody doing that. So unfortunately, there's some good things that occurred during that game, particularly our defense. I thought played really, really good football for the majority of the game. But unfortunately, we just, as a team, didn't do all those little things that you need to do in order to beat a good team. So that's where our focus will be. I'll take any questions you guys got.
Hey, Kevin. What are you going to do quarterback against the Bengals?
Yeah, we're still putting this game to bed. So anything related to Cincinnati, I'll update you guys as we get into the week.
All right. And then with Nick, do you know if he's going to need surgery?
I don't know that just yet. Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay. In recovery time, do you know how long?
Yeah, I don't want. It's a shorter term recovery time, but obviously you're going to lose him for the season.
Right. And just with him, Kevin, did you see? I know it's such a tough knee injury, but did you see signs of him kind of rounding into the form that we're so used to seeing as the season went along?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly you saw Nick had some really big plays for us this season. Think about some of the runs near the goal line where he put his head down and powered through, including in the games where he just got back out there. So I can't say it enough how impressive it was to watch him get back for this season. Going all the way back, I still have the video of him running the hills at the Greenbrier, and just the guy's so determined. So very, very disappointed for how, with yesterday and then him having that unfortunate injury, but it can't take away from what he was able to accomplish this season.
Yeah, Kevin, when we talked to Jameis after the game, we went over some of the interceptions, and, the one went off in Nick's hands, and then he described what happened with, the receiver thinking he was throwing it to someone else on the third one. The question is, do some of those things factor into your decision on what you're going to do? And then also the fact that a guy like Jerry Jeudy has absolutely flourished and thrived with Jameis, would that be another thing that you would take into consideration?
I think with any decision, Mary Kay, you take everything into consideration, certainly. So we need to work through all those type of things, but ultimately we want to do what's best for the team.
But with Jameis's interceptions, I mean, do you feel like, does he have a point? I mean, some of them have gone to Elijah Moore, where, Elijah really hasn't done very well on the jump balls this year per se. I think he's way up there in terms of passes intended for him. I mean, how do you feel about Jameis's interceptions in total?
Yeah, I would tell you, Mary Kay, and we kind of talked about this last week, you really treat each play as its own entity, if you will, and you make sure that you coach a player up on every single play. So on plays where you have an interception or a missed assignment or whatever it may be, you just try to learn from every single one of those, and they're all different. So that's what we're continuing to do. I think just sitting with the quarterbacks and going over those plays, I think it's good for everybody to learn from them, particularly when you feel like you can maybe make a better decision, have better technique, whatever it may be.
I guess I was going to ask you a similar question, Kevin. As a coach who's been around quarterbacks basically your whole career, what teaching points can you give a quarterback to be more careful with the ball?
I think ultimately, Jeff, you certainly are playing in a position where you're making decisions 70 times a game. And you have to trust what you see. You have to trust in your technique. And certainly we know that a big part of winning and losing in football is taking care of the ball. We get that. We also know that you have to play a style of football that gives yourself a chance to make yards. So there are times that you're aggressive. There's times that you're not, based on what the situation is, maybe based on what the route concept is, and those type of things. So I think you coach all of that up constantly, Jeff, and we're trying to play that game where we take care of the ball and you find a way to win. But it's always going to be something that's important to winning and losing in terms of taking care of the football.
Okay. Kevin, when you say you're going to do what's best for the team, do you mean this week or for the team in general? And I'm talking about the quarterback situation. Isn't it time for you guys to make some decisions about rebuilding this thing for next year?
Yeah, I think my focus, Tony, whether it's the quarterback position, it's really any position, constantly trying to do what I feel like is best for the team for right now, for this week, for Cincinnati. That's really where our focus is.
And another question on Chubb. We talked to Chubb last week, and he said he's not close to shutting it down and all that. But was there any conversation that he would have been shut down somewhere in the next 3 games?
No.
Why not?
Am I allowed to answer your question with a question?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, he's been through so much. Wouldn't just to refresh his knee as long as you could be in the best interest of him?
Yeah, I think, and I understand what you're asking, Tony, but I would tell you is our guys are competitors. They're here to play. They're here to compete. Nick is an ultimate competitor with how he carries himself in the building, on the practice field, in the game field. That was never under consideration.
Hey, Kevin, I know Dorian last night said that he had a package of plays already kind of planned for him, and it just kind of was an expanded role when you guys put him out there. When you guys are determining who's going to be the starting quarterback this week, is there the possibility of kind of figuring that out all along the way while still expanding Dorian's, I want to say, like, practice, the things that you're expecting from him, so that way if he does go out, if it is him, he is more prepared for that? Is that something you can do?
I think we obviously need to work through all of it, Cam. Certainly that there's plays that we have for a lot of guys that sometimes you get to, sometimes you don't. But in the case of this, I think it's just something that we just need to work through.
Have you guys been able to do that at any point, in Dorian's time here? Kind of think about how you would use him in a long-term role? Yes,
I think all of our guys are really all of them are working towards that. Whether you're getting reps with the scout team, with the ones, with the twos, whatever it may be, I think we're constantly trying to think of our guys' roles moving forward.
Hey, Kevin, again, on the quarterback decision situation, do you expect to have a decision next time we talk to you on Wednesday, or is it something where you'd like to see both guys practice and get practice reps throughout the week before we make a decision?
Yeah, I'll update you guys when appropriate. Again, it's, as you can imagine, Mondays are really about putting this the previous game to bed, so just have some more work to do.
Understandable. And a separate question. Are you at this point? Are you willing and able to rule out JOK for the rest of the season? And is there any update from you on him?
Yeah, I don't have an update just yet on Jeremiah, but I will update you guys when appropriate.
But not expected to play this week, obviously. Or...
Not expected to play this week. That's right.
You guys have talked a ton, Kevin, this year just about like the pre-snap penalties, and I know it's been a point of emphasis for you guys. Just what has prevented that, I guess, message from getting through, or those mistakes sort of still persisting, you think, even this deep into the season?
Yeah, we need to avoid the avoidable penalties, and those pre-snap ones we feel like are avoidable. Are there some things that maybe I take issue with? Yes, we knew that going into this game that may happen with that crew, and we'll get answers to those type of things. But it doesn't change the fact that you don't want to put your team in any way unnecessarily behind the eight ball with something pre-snap. Those are the easy ones that we need to avoid.
And then I guess the silver lining from yesterday, Jerry getting to 1,000 yards, obviously for the first time in his career. I know I asked you a couple weeks ago just about what you envisioned with him when you got him, if you kind of saw this potential. But as the season winds down, you sort of look ahead to even like next year and beyond with him. Just how excited are you guys about the possibilities that he gives you guys as a potentially number one wide receiver, and what he's kind of proven this year for you guys?
Yeah, he continues to make plays in a variety of ways. He shows the ability to line up everywhere in the formation, which I think, like we've spoken about before, speaks to his intelligence. And he's somebody that we'll continue to utilize because he's made a lot of plays with the ball in his hand.
Hey, Kevin, just with Nick out, what do you guys hope to see from Jerome over these last 3 weeks, and what's going to be important for him?
Just continue to build on yesterday. I thought he was really good. Obviously, gave us a spark in the kick return game, gave us a spark on offense. So it's just building on that. I thought his pass protection was good as well. So another young player that will get a few more opportunities.
And then just going back to the quarterbacks, I mean, over the last year, you've seen Dorian obviously more than we have just in practices and stuff. Like, how have you just kind of seen him grow in those moments where, we're not privy to necessarily?
I'd tell you, Dorian, like a lot of young players, Ashley continues to use all of his reps that he gets to make himself better. I mean, I think when you're running the scout team cards, those are great opportunities to get better. You're not running your plays per se, but these plays are so similar, so you can take yourself through a rep or a concept that you can get better at. And then in terms of just individual, just seeing a guy that takes coaching, takes the individual period into what he's doing in practice. So I see a lot of growth from Dorian and from all of our young players.
Yeah, Kevin, I wanted to ask you about the special teams. You've had so many issues with that unit this year, not just from a kicking standpoint, but the return game. What has led to the drop off there, and how disappointing has that been for you week to week to continue to have those struggles?
Well, obviously, Daryl, you're trying to affect the game in a positive way on teams, and certainly our return phases are setting up our offense with good field position. That's the thing with special teams is you're talking about points and field position, two things that are obviously very important to winning and losing. So disappointed with some of our the plays that have happened in our punt return in particular. We need to be better there. Obviously, turning over the ball is really disappointing and not something that we can do when you're trying to, again, set the offense up.
And I know you want these players to take it 1 week at a time. Just how, big picture wise for them, though, how critical are these final 3 games before you and Andrew have to get in a room and really have an honest conversation about the state of the roster and who fits this team going forward?
I think every game is important, Daryl, whether it was game 1, game 17. We look at every game as an opportunity for our players, for our coaches, and it's your tape is your resume. So these are really important games for all of us.
Kevin, how are David Njoku and Cedric Tillman coming along? Are you optimistic they'll be able to play in Cincinnati?
I'm hopeful, Mary Kay. They're both getting better, but we'll have to see how this week plays out. And
if they can't play, obviously you guys struggled with getting any production out of most of your receivers except for Jerry Jeudy yesterday. Do you have other thoughts, plans, or ideas on what you can do to generate some more production from some of the other players?
Certainly, we have to, Mary Kay. Obviously, Jerry's has been very productive, like we talked about. But the best that we're at our best when the ball's being spread around, and multiple guys are making plays, and we trust all of our guys who have the ability to catch it. So it's our job just to put them in position to go make those plays.
Kevin, Miles said he was going to see, I think, the eye doctor today. Do you know what the result was?
I think he's still there, so I don't have an update just yet.
Okay, so you don't know, like, if it's going to be, it could affect him this week or anything?
I don't know just yet. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Back for another season from your favorite four-legged companion is year 3 of Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dogs. View membership options. Join today at barkingbackers.com. We will go around the sports world. Coming up next, listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Bo here for my friends at Jim Beam. This year to celebrate Friendsmas, Jim Beam wants to share a little cheer. Purchase a bottle of any Jim Beam family brands. Receive a $10 rebate to use towards your holiday festivities. Whether you're getting together with friends at your favorite bar, buying ingredients for cocktails at home, or visiting the Jim Beam Friendsmas shop, Jim Beam is here to help. Have the best Friendsmas ever. Visit Jim Beam FriendsmasRebate.com to learn more. Redeem your $10 Jim Beam certificate there. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2024. James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. Drink smart. All right. What do we want to tackle here? We got a couple of minutes. Drew Aller returning to quarterback at Penn State. So that gets into the quarterback conversation. He was viewed by most as the third. So kind of the consensus right now, and it is Cam Ward and Shadur, first rounders, and then Aller was kind of the third if the draft was held today. Jalen Milroe could be that guy now. I think both Milroe and Aller especially will benefit from returning to Penn State.
So who's going back to school? Aller's going back. That Nussmeier?
Yeah, he's at LSU. Yeah.
Yeah. Is Ewers going back? But not
he says no.
Not to Texas?
He says no. He says he's staying in the draft, which might be smart because next year's draft will be a lot better than this year's draft. And you only need one. So he says he's staying in the draft. Okay. So Milroe, Ewers, Beck was considered, a lot of people loved him, but he had a disastrous year at Georgia, and then he had elbow surgery.
Yep.
So in the SEC title game. So I don't know what's going to happen with him.
What about Dylan Gabriel?
Gabriel is not going to have any measurable that anyone likes, but he's really smart and really accurate.
Neither did Brock Purdy.
No.
And he won the 7th round.
Yeah. He's a little dude. He's probably 5'11", but he can see it, and he anticipates, and he throws very accurate ball. So he's not going to drive it down the field. He could. Guys are open. He'll see it and get it out on time. So the Aller news hits that a little bit. The other thing that's kind of crazy about that, their backup quarterback jumped into the portal and then left Penn State. Bo Prabilla, he left Penn State. So they play. Saturday at noon against SMU, and their backup quarterback is gone, off the team, left. So that's
Why would
crazy.
he do that?
Like Ohio State's backup quarterback entered the portal, but he's sticking around.
Aren't you surprised Aller, would he be the third best quarterback in next year's class?
It's hard to say because at this time last year we would have said Ewers and Beck would go 1-2, and now neither one are going to be. But I understand why he's going back. And the other thing is like financially, I mean, he might make $2.5 million quarterback in Penn State next year.
Yeah, which is pretty great.
You know, there was talk of like last Friday of Quinn Ewers, if he goes in the portal and goes to highest bidder, he can make $3.5 or $4 million quarterbacking college football next year. So if you're a second or third round pick,
why wouldn't he do that?
Well, that's what they're saying. So, but he would need to go to, like, he is getting expertly coached at Texas. He would have to go to a place like Ole Miss, where he would get expertly coached at the quarterback position to get better to improve his pro chances. So that's the other thing with college football right now is you can do that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So. That's very possible.
Can we talk about? I know this is I think it's around the sports world.
Maybe at 240.
What?
Maybe at 240.
Oh yeah, we got Hoff.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to go.
Boost your game day this season with write that down. Write down your thought. Boost your game day this season with the Bally Bet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet at $25 or more. You'll get $150 back in bonus bets. Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. The Joe Thomas half hour of the program coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If a car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time for the Joe Thomas half hour of the program, courtesy of the Twisted Tea Hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. Hoff, what was your favorite thing you watched? Was there one thing you enjoyed this weekend that you consumed from an entertainment purposes standpoint? I'm just trying to avoid it as long as we can.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching the end of the Saints game. I thought that was pretty exciting, thrilling with Spencer Rattler going down the field. I know it was sort of a meaningless game, but seeing them go down and having them come back from their big deficit and have a chance to win the game. And I always love when coaches believe in their players and they decide to go for two in that situation. On the clock, you can kick the extra point, go to overtime, or you go for two for the win. And it didn't work out for them, but I think trusting your players and going for two, I always love it when coaches make that decision and they try to win it in regulation.
Wasn't there some funky clockwork that even allowed the last play that ended in a touchdown? Were they talking about that while you were watching it, Hoff? I read about it after the fact.
So, yeah, I
they
heard
should have gotten the last play.
Right.
The Saints shouldn't have?
Fortunately for me, I usually watch a game and then I'll have like the red zone on, and so the red zone went to it, and you don't always get the commentary from the announcers at that time. So I heard it this morning, but apparently like the sideline ref thought it was college because he kind of like stopped the clock and gave him that opportunity when maybe the clock should have expired.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
It was a big deal. They shouldn't have even gotten a chance to have that touchdown play. Now, it wouldn't have mattered for Vegas, I don't think, because it was.
I think it was 9.5, wasn't it?
It was 8, and then I think it ended at 7.5. So it still would have been 7. So it would still been on the Saints.
Still
side.
been on the Saints. Yeah.
I don't know if it could have affected a total though. That's possible.
Yeah,
could have affected a total.
Got to worry about those things.
You do in today's day and age for sure. Hoff, that was tough yesterday. The turnovers, the pre-snap penalties. You were the best tackle. When now we're getting the lining up too far back. What did you just kind of make of the overall sloppiness and the fact that here we are in game 14 and it's still self-inflicted wounds that are just derailing this team and taking away any chance it has to be consistently competitive?
Well, it was disappointing and it was a shame, especially because when you look at least maybe the last half of the season, we played pretty well against the better teams on our schedule, obviously beating the Steelers and beating the Ravens. And, I think especially with the Chiefs not blowing anybody out, there was a lot of hope in my mind that it was going to be a good close game. At least it would be fun to watch. We were going to have Jameis Winston keeping both teams in the game the way he usually does, but it was going to come down to the wire and maybe be a fun game. But it turned out to be more like a Thanksgiving afternoon nap type game where you kind of fell asleep in the second half because the Browns were never in it from the start. And when you are -6 in the turnover margin, I think it doesn't take a genius to look at the turnover chart and say it's pretty much impossible to win in that situation. And then when you compile that with the number of pre-snap errors and the sloppiness that we had not seen when the Browns have played some of the better teams on their schedule, and certainly Kansas City qualifies as one of the better teams on the Browns schedule. It was just a disappointing outing, and it didn't seem like from top to bottom that the players and the coaches were ready and inspired to play the way that they had been in weeks past when they played some of the better teams in some of the bigger moments.
Yeah, and the thing that was tricky is, I think most people probably expected this result. I mean, Kansas City was 12-1. They're the two-time Super Bowl champions. Like, we are what our record says we are. But Kansas City wasn't particularly sharp, Hoff, and our defense played really well. Yeah. Mahomes missed a lot of stuff in this game and wasn't on point the way we're used to seeing it. So I think that adds to it, right? Because this one was there for it to be competitive, and I understand that it was only 21-7, but to me it felt like 35-7.
Yeah, it felt a lot worse because your offense couldn't piss a drop most of the game, and at the beginning of the game, especially the first half, your defense was playing well. I mean, you were stopping them, and if you looked at, okay, what are the two advantages we have going into this game? It's going to be, okay, Myles Garrett rushing against their left tackle, who is by the way, a guard. He was not a tackle. Up until this moment, Joe Thuney, they slid him out there to play left tackle because they knew that the guy they had out there at left tackle had no chance of blocking Myles Garrett. And you said, okay, we feel pretty good. If we can keep it close where it's not a situation where they can just double and triple team Myles, which I saw a few times, which is surprising because triple teams almost never happen in the NFL. But they were doing that. Down throw the ball, and they had to get more receivers out in their route. And so you were disappointed thinking, hey, if it was close, Myles has a chance to impact the game. You know, he was motivated to get to his 100th sack. We knew that on defense, Chris Jones, he's sort of their difference maker up front. He's their defensive tackle, one of the best in the NFL over the last decade. But we have a couple of the best guards in the NFL over the last decade. So we felt like, at least I did going into this game, that we had an opportunity because of matchups, if it was a close game, to maybe win one, like sneak one out, or at least make it fun down the stretch. And it was none of that, especially because your offense just couldn't do anything. And when they almost tried to start doing something, it seemed like they turned the ball over. And so it was another one of those where it was just not a fun game. Rather throw yourself down a flight of stairs or poke some pins and needles in your eyeballs than to watch what happened there on Sunday.
What did you think of, speaking of getting poked in the eye? I still don't really understand what happened with Myles.
I know. They showed it a bunch. I couldn't tell. I
have no clue. Hoff, what did you kind of just make of that whole thing? I will tell you this, and I'm not downplaying the pain of being poked in the eye. It is excruciating, or whatever ended up happening to his eye. I'm still not 100% clear. But from the booth, all of a sudden you just look down, and he was on his stomach, had thrown his helmet, and you're thinking, oh, no. And Mahomes is there waving over, and I was just thinking like, oh, God, Achilles, ACL.
Right.
Anything away from the play. But then you saw the replays. I still don't really know what happened. What did you kind of think happened there? And then obviously, you know, how would that affect? He said he had some blurry vision. How would that affect somebody? Now he had 12 pressures in this game, Hoff. 12, which is unbelievable. He was so close to getting that 100 sack a dozen times.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that it wasn't a close game because pressures become sacks when it's close because the quarterback's not just getting rid of it. Because he can't, right? He's got to hold on to it. He's got to go to his second and third reads. He's got to try to convert that third down. And so that's when you're playing in a close game, you get those sacks. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So Mahomes is just like, I'm going to throw it away rather than take a sack. And so you get a pressure, which feels great, but it's not the 100th sack that I think we all wanted to see. But from the benefit of being able to watch it at home, we got a replay fairly quickly. And, you know, it was a touchdown in the back of the end zone, if I'm remembering exactly correctly. And then they went right over to Myles, and you saw it, and you got to see the replay right away. And so it was fairly clear for me that even though you couldn't see what happened, Thuney had thrown his right hand up into the face mask area. It was not intentional, and he wasn't trying to throw like a high punch. But when you have that hand fighting, a lot of times you're trying to aim for that chest plate or the shoulder pad, bicep area. And when the defensive lineman gets his hands in there, he's trying to knock your hands down. Sometimes the hands do go high, and then you try to refit. But it looked like, to me, his right thumb, the left tackle, Thuney, got into Myles' face mask and may have poked him like sort of in the side of the eye. But you couldn't see because they kept giving you the camera angle from behind. And Charles Davis was trying to make sense of it too. He's like, I can't really see exactly what happened. But I think by his reaction, you could tell it was his eye, but I mean, I thought his eye was going to be like hanging out of the socket. I mean, it was the way he was writhing around in pain. And the only thing I can kind of compare it to, it certainly was not the same level of pain, but I had not LASIX in the off season in my left eye, but I had like a PRK where they go in and they like scratch your cornea or whatever, and then it heals and your vision's better. I'm not obviously an ophthalmologist, so I don't understand all of it, but I kept going back to my visits with my doctor, and I'm like, is everything okay? Like, I'm having the most extreme pain I've ever had. And I feel like I'm a guy that can tolerate pain, but I'm like, this is just excruciating. And he said, you know what? Sometimes with those eyes, there's so many nerve endings, especially with, like, what he said was, like, bigger guys that have really high pain tolerances for whatever reason. There's all these nerve endings, and it causes a pain that's almost intolerable beyond what you could even expect. And he kept looking in my eyes, said, you know, everything's healing well, it looks fine, it's just going to take some time. And that was the first thing I thought of when I saw Myles get poked in the eye, that he probably had some type of scratch there or something, but the pain is just something that you're not used to because it feels like it's not like in your body. Like you're used to having knee pain, ankle pain, hip, back, whatever, muscle pain, but in your eyeball, like it's just so much more sensitive. And thankfully he was able to come back and play, and seemingly probably no permanent damage from the looks of it. But man, you were so concerned when he was laying there and the trainers came over, he still wouldn't flip over. Boy, yeah, it would just look terrible, and you wonder if he's going to be wearing a visor from now on to hopefully try to prevent something like that, because that was terrible.
They put it on after.
He had it off. They put it on after. Yep, yeah, exactly.
It's weird. On the replay that we were able to see, the one that they
looked
showed,
like it was on.
It looked like he had his visor on.
No, they put
Really?
it. I mean, I don't think so.
Like I'm watching the ones they have online right now, but Gibby, when we watched it in the booth, it sure looked like, because you could see a reflection off of it.
So that's what I'm not sure. Was that the visor after the fact?
Well, no, they definitely showed it after, and there was a visor on it after. But the way they presented it on television was that they put a visor on it.
I thought he always plays in a visor, because they even were showing his helmet.
Jameis normally does, and then he didn't because of the rain.
Jordan said he had just taken it off
because of the rain
right before.
Yeah,
because of the drops.
Yeah,
like you can't see through them when it rains.
Yeah, it's
because Jameis didn't have one either, and he always has one.
Yeah, like he had taken it off like the series before.
Because of the makes sense, the drips and stuff. Yeah, I'm with you, Hoff. There's a incredible HBO series called Deadwood. And I want to say the second, about Deadwood, South Dakota, and the gold rush and all this, I want to say it's either in the second or third season of it. There is a man-on-man fight that leads with one man pulling another's eyeball out.
Yeah, it's bad.
And that's what I feared.
Oh my goodness!
When I saw him with the eye, I thought, oh my God, like is his eyeball out? Like what the hell happened here? And that's what I was with you. I thought that's what was my fear when I saw the fact that he wouldn't move. I'm like, this is going to be horrific. So thank goodness that didn't turn out that way.
Yeah.
Hoff, look, this is just such a brutal stretch right now, and the way that we're playing offensive football is pretty brutal. You got 3 games left. All of the teams that you currently still have on the schedule will be playing for something likely when you play them, including Cincinnati this week. If you are a leader on this team, if you are Kevin Stefanski, if you are someone of power and authority, what's the message? What are you trying to accomplish in the last 3?
Well, I think the message is a bit similar to what you've been selling before and preaching. Like, you're going to try to play spoiler, which, especially for the younger guys, I think they get excited about that. But for the veterans, it's like, hey, we're trying to figure out who's going to be part of this thing next year. And, we didn't live up to our own expectations this year, but we feel like we've got an opportunity next year to reload, to gather ourselves and come back and make a run at a championship. And we want to find out who's going to be here, who's going to fit with offensive and defensive schemes, who are going to be the guys that want to be Cleveland Browns, and who are the guys that we're going to have to replace. And I think that's going to be the core of the message. And then as far as within the upper level management, it's like, all right, who are the guys that we want to really take a good look at? And I think with DTR finishing the game, there's a good chance that they're probably going to be playing him the rest of the way to try to figure out what you have with him, because I think as much fun as the Jameis Winston experiment has been, he's not being delivered from picks. He's being delivered from pick sixes, but certainly not the other types of interceptions. Maybe some more prayers there around the holiday season here, but unfortunately, you're not seeing any progress really with the interceptions. And I don't know if that's really a quarterback that you can live with. Yeah, he's fun in a season that has become meaningless from a playoff standpoint. But it's tough to put the hopes and dreams of your franchise in a guy that's going to throw 3 picks in every single game.
No, you're right. And some of the young guys, though, that I did think looked pretty good in this one, Isaiah McGuire, who I know you've gotten to see get after the quarterback on the end opposite Miles. Last week was Pro Football Focus's #1 graded player in the NFL. And then I thought Mike Hall, the young defensive tackle, was around Mahomes all day. I thought those two were some nice bright spots. Andrew, my broadcast partner, Andrew Siliano, just texted me. He said Miles said after the game that was literally the first play that he had taken his visor off. It really looked like there was a reflection on the TV at the time, but that is very bad luck. And you guys are right. There was an incident at a ladder match with Joey Mercury when he was teaming with the great John Morrison, where he got hit by the ladder and he literally thought his eyeball was gonzo. And so, yes, you were certainly fearful for that, and we're glad that Miles is okay. But back to those young guys, McGuire, Mike Hall, it looks like you found some nice pieces there on that defensive line.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're looking for here down the stretch. It was fun watching Isaiah McGuire because obviously the game was a bit out of hand, and I was just kind of peeking through the roster and trying to see, who are the guys that I want to focus on. And there was a couple times, actually, I saw McGuire getting some good pressure, and I thought for a second it was Myles Garrett because he seems to have picked up some of the rushes that Myles likes to do. And, I mean, he was steamrolling the right tackle a couple times where it looked like it was Myles getting that type of pressure. And I think if you are going to be able to find a pass rusher to bookend with Myles, that would be so huge for the coverage and for the guys in the secondary and for Myles as well, because now you can't just always single up the guy opposite him and put chips and slides towards Myles' direction. So I think he was a huge find and continues to make that improvement and letting these young guys play in these big games, right? It's not big from a playoff standpoint, but when you're playing against these other teams that do have championship aspirations and they got the playoffs on the line, it feels like a huge game when you're a young guy. And they're fun to play in it, and you get yourself up. And when you find a way to play at a higher level with greater focus because there's more intensity, like you then become a player that can operate at a higher level. That's taking the next step, right? And then from that point, you can hopefully take that next step in the off season. So it is fun seeing those young guys start to scratch their potential and start taking those next steps. And you start thinking about, okay, all right, who can we build around now this offseason, and what are the spots that we don't maybe necessarily need to address in free agency or the draft?
I mean, Shelby Harris said in that D-line room, he said, you have to say there are two buckets you're going to fall in. I was a part of the problem, or I can be a part of the solution. And, you have to be.
He said that last week, though, and this is what we got.
Yeah. Well, in his room,
yes. Yeah.
They played quite well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's tough.
His room played quite well.
His room did. Yeah. His room did.
Jerry Jeudy played quite well. Jerome Ford played well. Nick Chubb was running well before that. The offensive line, I thought, played well. Defensively, I thought overall was good. We turned the ball over 6 times.
Yeah,
we gave them 7 points off of a punt. You force them to get a 3 and out, and instead it's 7 points for them.
Yeah.
I mean that's the other thing.
I think the thing that's hardest for me, guys, is I just don't know what we're trying to do offensively. I think in the early part of Stefanski, his entire run up until this year, I knew what we were trying to be. I knew I guess I knew what our identity was. I don't know what, other than, and Z said this earlier, he's exactly right. We have Jerry Jeudy. And that's kind of it right now in terms of what we are offensively. And I think when you go into offseason, you go to these last 3 games, and the defense played great. They played great. Mahomes was particularly sharp. The defense played great, though. And some of that's on them. But, we got to figure out what the Cleveland – so much of what Stefanski's this reign, his run here, has been built on who he is offensively. And it's everything you see. You watch the 49ers play. They're not getting results, but they are who they are.
Yep.
And I don't know what – that's the thing that's hard right now, I think, for me, is what are we trying to do offensively, Hoff?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest priorities this offseason. Obviously, we know the quarterback's going to be a question mark, who's playing at that position, and most important position in sports, kind of a big deal, but I think it's all right, what are the things that we can have the biggest impact on this offseason? And it's going to be, all right, let's make sure we're a team that can run the ball consistently week in and week out. Don't know what type of play you're going to get from your quarterback. Don't know what type of passing game you're going to be. But if you look back and you look at under Stefanski's reign, when have we been really good on offense? We were able to run the football against anybody.
Yep.
And sometimes you had good quarterback play, sometimes you didn't. But if you can run the ball, you can keep it close and you can win some of those games, especially when you have a defense that at times can be elite. This game, obviously, but it doesn't take long to look back to last season. They were the best defense in the NFL and pretty much all the same guys. So if you expect, okay, there's a chance we can sort of revert to who we were, the mean of last season, as one of the best, if not the best defense in the NFL. Hey, if we can run the ball and we can just say, okay, we're going to find a way in free agency and the draft, and what we emphasize in the offseason, in the week of preparation, and what we commit ourselves to, and we're going to always be able to run the ball. Maybe it's with the under center, inside, outside zone, pin pull stuff that Stefanski's been doing. Whatever it is, like, we're going to commit to that. We're going to do it a lot. We're going to spend a lot of time on it in practice, and that's going to be our identity of who we're going to be. And then if we can take some shots, great. If we get some good play from quarterback, we can maybe emphasize that a little bit more. But you just kind of say, hey, this is who we're going to be. We're going to run the ball. We're going to find out who can be our running backs, who are going to be the dudes on the offensive line that can block for us. And these are the concepts that we run really well, and we're just going to get really, really good at it. I think that gives you the best opportunity to make a big improvement and find an identity on offense that we just don't have right now.
Is that hard when, it seems like now with kind of the shift away from the Stefanski to more of the Dorsey offense, is that a hard thing to do when you're in the shotgun as much as we are?
Yeah, it is. And that's why I think they're going to have to take a really hard, long look this offseason about who we want to be, right? Especially if you don't necessarily know that Deshaun's going to be your quarterback, or you're going to have a quarterback that wants to always be in the gun. You're going to say maybe that we need to skew more towards what we've done in the past that we've been really good at, which is those under center runs. And of course you can still sprinkle in some of the shotgun stuff, but I think from the sample that we got this year, and then when Deshaun has been a quarterback in the past, when we're running exclusively our run plays out of the gun, we're just not good enough, right? You're going to have a couple good runs here and there, but your under center is going to be the most consistent, productive run scheme over time, unless you have a quarterback like let's say a Josh Allen or one of these guys that can just hurt you with the ball in their hand running the football alone. Unless you have that, I think under center may be where they want to skew, because it just gives you more flexibility, and it doesn't give the defense as many pre-snap reads about what you're going to do based on your alignment and your formations and your shifts. It makes them read after the ball is snapped where the play is going and to diagnose and dissect the run game. And I think that gives you a big advantage that allows you to be more consistent.
All right, let's go around the league here. Two really highly anticipated afternoon games going head-to-head, with the Eagles hosting the Steelers and then the Bills at the Lions. Buffalo goes into Detroit. Those teams seems like the same team to me. I think Detroit's more talented, but they're both.
But now they're so banged up.
They
Detroit
are really, and the Montgomery injury today could spell the end of his season. So they're really banged up defensively. We know about their injuries, and then Philly handling business against Pittsburgh as well, Hoff. And we're waiting on a T.J. Watt injury. I haven't seen anything today in terms of an update on that, but we haven't seen anything in terms of severity of it. No. Of those two games, which one to you felt mattered more in terms of what's coming?
To me, it was Lions Bills, because I think most people were saying, hey, these are probably the two best teams in the NFL. And it was the most exciting because Josh Allen, he's right now the front runner for MVP. And for me personally, as a Browns guy, I always, if I'm not cheering for the Browns, I'm kind of cheering for the Lions. I feel like we're brethren a little bit, both long-suffering, loyal franchise, loyal fan bases. And so that was a little bit more exciting to me, especially because there's a little love for Dan Campbell, but also it's fun watching Josh Allen. So that was really the game that I had on, and I was watching the other game on the backup, the back TV over there to the right. And so to me, that was kind of the more interesting game, even though obviously I love watching the Steelers lose. To me, the Eagles, the Steelers, they feel like they're good teams, but I just don't feel like they have enough balance and consistency to go and win a championship. Whereas to me, it feels like Bills or Lions, at least going into this game, we're going to be one of your teams that was going to be hosting the Lombardi Trophy after the season was over. Now with all the injuries the Lions have, hard to argue that they're going to still win it all, but I would never count a Dan Campbell team out, and maybe that's when they're actually probably at their best, when people count them out.
They lost when Goff went 5 touchdowns, no picks. They won when he threw 5 picks.
Yes. Well, they did an onside kick. They
right.
went for it on 4th, I think, in their own end.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Did Allen just wrap up the MVP?
Yeah, unless something crazy happens where he's just awful down the stretch and one of these other guys like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes just goes
Lamar's
off,
been great.
I think he's got it.
But he's done. He's done
so
two.
it's not over.
Allen Hoff just. I'm pretty sure he plays Jets twice and Pats once.
Yeah, they're going to win. Yeah.
So they're going to win out.
Yes, he's going to get it. I think so.
Yeah.
They're going to have a tough run though because their team is flawed in so many ways. He has to be superior every single time. Like he can't. If he has an average game, and
that's why I think
he's
even a stronger case.
Yeah, I think absolutely.
It's a one-man show.
I think absolutely. Real quick, I went and looked this up. We were talking about under center shotgun. 2020, Browns were in shotgun 43% of the time, 29th in the NFL. 2021, 50%, 29th in the NFL. Then you get Watson in 22, 57%, 22nd in the NFL. 63% in 23, 20th in the NFL. This year, 75% shotgun, 5th most in the NFL.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah.
We went in 4 years.
That's my point. I guess
from 43% to 75% shotgun.
That was the point of the question I was asking Hoff.
Yeah.
Is what are we doing?
I don't know. Hoff, you made a comment right there. You'd never counted Dan Campbell team out, and I think a lot of people who are watching Hard Knocks are seeing the greatness that has obviously manifested itself, and I believe it's 17 straight winning seasons for Mike Tomlin. But in Mike Tomlin, is that what you think is going to be the new wave of coaching in the NFL? Because we've had this discussion a bunch of times because some of the most successful coaches in the league, I don't think are quite those kind of guys. When you think about like an Andy Reid, you think about a Kyle Shanahan, although Kyle has definitely some gangster and McVay, but they're just supreme scheme guys. Do you think we're going to see kind of the next wave of hires where people are trying to find like culture leaders in the way that, a Campbell or a Tomlin, how they are just absolute forces of nature in terms of what they bring to an organization? And you think of the available candidates, like a guy like Vrabel, certainly I think is going to have his pick of jobs because I think he'll be viewed in that light.
Yeah, whoever the hot coach is, that's what everybody chases with the open and the vacancies. I mean, when Belichick had his run, his assistants were getting hired every year, even though they always, failed, really. I can't think of a single one of them other than Vrabel, who had success, but even Vrabel had gone a bunch of different places. And so you always chase that. And the thing I would say, I would caution a little bit, like how many Dan Campbells are walking the face of the earth? Like, it's great to think like, oh yeah, let's go for the culture guy, but it's not really necessarily the scheme or philosophy that Campbell has. I think it's the personality of the individual, right? It's not necessarily like you're chasing the culture guy necessarily, because if you just chase that, then you end up with a flawed candidate a lot of times. Whereas I think there's a lot of ways to be a great head coach. You just named a bunch of them, right? There's guys that are very, very different. Look at John Harbaugh, right? He's a culture guy. Came from the special teams side, right? His brother, out with the Chargers right now. Jim Harbaugh, like he was a culture guy. They wanted to bring him in. But then you talk about like a Tomlin, he's a defensive guy, culture guy. Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, they're culture guys, right? It's not like they have a bad culture. I think they have great cultures, but they're much more dialed in on scheme. And so I don't necessarily think you have to have one or the other. I think you need to find the right candidate and the personality and the human being more than chasing like something to try to pigeonhole into what you think this team needs or the fit that they need. The only caveat I would say is that I do think like if you have a younger quarterback or you're going to get a young quarterback in the draft or whatever, I think you need to have an offensive-minded coach who's going to be able to be there with him at least the first 5, 7, 10 years of his career in that meeting room with him every day, because the two most important positions on any football team are the quarterback and the offensive coordinator / head coach, and usually you want those to be the same guy. And even though Dan Campbell, we say he's a culture guy, he did come from the offensive side, and I think he has a lot of impact and sway on the offensive side of the football. And he's got a quarterback, Goff, that have been around a long time. So I just think that if you hire a guy that made his money on defense and then you try to pair him with a young quarterback, to me, that's something that rarely ever works out.
Authenticity. So if you're going to be a follow me to freedom guy, then you got to be authentic with that, and it's got to be who you are. You got to live that life. If you're going to be scheme guy, then you got to be authentic to that. And when you cross over and you become something you're not, that's when you get into trouble. And that can be, I mean, that's life.
Yes.
Let alone coaching football. We got to run. I know you're going to be in studio with us Wednesday, which we're excited about, but I'm curious your thoughts on Belichick coaching at North Carolina.
I think it's crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. I haven't heard anybody that's like, oh yeah, this makes total sense. Other than, well, yeah, his dad coached at UNC way back when, and he feels like some type of nostalgia about it and stuff. And I know Bill's a super smart guy, but I think some of the problems that he had later on in New England was, I think, the ego and the success. Not that it went to his head, but I think it clouded decision making a little bit, and that's why he drafted and signed guys that didn't work out. And I know he's good friends with Nick Saban, and he's talked to plenty of guys that have been in the college game and guys that have left like Saban because they don't want any more part of it. But I think he's just not realizing that college football is all the bad of the NFL right now and none of the good. And he's not getting any of the purity of college football that his dad had when he was there in the 50s, or even what it was like 5 or 10 years ago. I just don't understand why he would want to go there and have to be in charge of bake sales and booster fundraisers. And I don't know if he fully, I know people have told him, and he's in his mind is yeah, I get it. I don't think he fully understands how much non-football you have to do as a head football coach of a college team. He's going to do 20% football and 80% fundraising and NIL and recruiting. And that's all the stuff he hates. He didn't even want to have to deal with one owner in New England. Him and Robert Kraft could barely get along. He didn't like his GM. He didn't like anybody. He just wanted to be the dude making all the decisions and telling everybody what to do. And in the college world, he's got 8 owners that are all the boosters that are keeping the program alive, that he's going to have to beg them for money to go pay all these guys with NIL money, and he's going to have to continue to recruit and treat his players with velvet gloves that are in the program. I mean, I just don't see how he's going to enjoy himself and stick around more than a couple of years.
It's the same. Yeah. The idea that after every practice he's going to have to go press the flesh with 8 to 12 boosters who paid money to be there and want their opinion heard by him, that's every practice. And when he's done with practice, then he'll have a luncheon, and he's going to have to press the flesh for those boosters there. And then he's got to make sure he doesn't coach a kid hard, or else the kid will get in the portal at any time. No chance.
I think it's every bit as likely that he doesn't coach a game at North Carolina as it is that he does.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that with the buyout, $1 million.
$1 million buyout.
If one NFL team has an interest.
If the Cowboys say, hey, no, come on, let's do this.
I don't know. I saw Diana Rossini report over the weekend that he reached out to the Jets, and Schrager did too, that they reached out, and he hates the Jets. So, I don't know. All right, Hoff.
I don't know, maybe.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would he take the job, though, if he's still angling for an NFL gig? I mean, the only thing I can think of is he's hoping to maybe get his girlfriend into school and find a way, that he can avoid the admissions program for his
in-state tuition
junior-to-be girlfriend.
Perhaps, but also, don't you think
it could? A couple bucks.
Carolina's a great school, Hoff. Beautiful campus.
When you're
tough to get into.
He's also now he's like a taken commodity, right? So it's one thing when he's just out there and nobody wants him.
About
now,
his kid.
Now somebody wants him.
I think it's about
to set up his son, but I still think
he
could. I still think he could be out of there.
Yeah, I don't know. Hoff, you'll be here Wednesday, buddy. Look forward to that.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you boys in person on Wednesday.
Yeah, baby.
All right, there he is, the great Hoff.
All right.
Browns fans, check out Vivid Seats, the official fan experience packages for this season's home games. When you purchase seats in the Vivid Seats Terrace experience, you also score pregame field passes, all-inclusive food and beverage, and more. Visit vividseats.com today to learn more. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The new Rumpke Recycling Resource Center, one-of-a-kind facility in Ohio. We process 250,000 tons of material annually over 50 Ohio counties. Learn more about how you can keep communities clean and green by visiting rumpke.com. Time for the Great Clips. Great clip of the game. Great clips. It's going to be great. Here's Jerome Ford, 62 yards to the barn.
3:30 clock moving, third quarter, 21-0. It's second and 23. Browns run a draw. Ford has it. He's at the 40. He's at the 45, 50. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Casey 40, 30, foot race, 10, touchdown! Jerome Ford! 62 yards, and the Browns are on the board.
Jerome Ford in an instant changes this game, and I'll tell you what, Chad O'Shea in the wide receiver meeting room is going to be going nuts. He's going to love what he sees. You get a nice block from Mike Woods, who maybe gets away with a hold, and then you get a great block from Jerry Jeudy. That's what creates the lane, and then Jerome Ford just outruns the angle to the house for the touchdown.
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby. There were
some
nice wide receiver blocks. You got to shout them out.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy, Mike Woods.
What I liked about that was that the great call by Andrew, and then I liked the context that I got after, bringing mind the wide receiver blocking downfield. I really thought
but then also trying to steal the joy. Maybe got away with a hold. Maybe there was a wide receiver that got away with a hold.
He coming in,
boy.
listening with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, there's the analysis that I'm looking for. Perfect. Trying to steal joy in a joyous moment.
By the way, I don't know that that's stealing joy at all, first of all. Second of all, if anything, it's like adding to the joy. Hey, we had a great play, and we may have gotten away with one. Nobody's ever gotten mad about that.
We'll take it.
Eddie Guerrero, when he played offensive line down in El Paso, used to say, if you ain't holding, you ain't trying. So
there you go.
What do you think about that?
Are we sure that that's what happened?
What you wrote something down earlier.
I did.
Do you remember what it was?
I do. Were you watching Indy Denver at all?
I had it on. It was a red zone-y.
Indy had the chance to win that game. They're up 13-6. Bo Nix has thrown three picks.
Yeah. Yes.
Jonathan Taylor takes a 60-yard run to the house and drops the ball before he's in the end zone.
I don't know why these guys do this.
I don't understand it. Now, afterwards, he felt very, very badly, and then the game completely turned after that. They ended up blown out. Nick Benito, by the way, has 2 receiving touchdowns this year. He got a second pick six in this one. He had one against us as well. That guy's having an unbelievable year. They scored twice defensively, did the Denver Broncos. We saw it. Wasn't it like early this year in the Jets did it in prime time on a Monday night, like Xavier Gibson?
I think so, yeah.
On an end around.
I always think that I think that they're going so fast that they think they're further along on the field than they are.
Dude,
do Bo Jackson. All the way through.
At least there's a line, and then there's green, and then there's another line.
Yeah.
At least get like in between the two lines before you even think about dropping the ball. What's the?
I don't know.
Here's the other thing. What's so cool about dropping it the second you get right there? Why is that cool?
I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
They're done. Now I'm not saying they would have won the game, but it's a different game if they're up all of a sudden.
Oh yeah,
20-7 or 20-6, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He apologized to his team. I give him credit for that. He said it'll never happen again. I give him credit for all of those things. But at the same time, that is just it's just wild to me. It's that
it keeps happening after we've seen it 100 times. Is
wild. And it feels like that's something that would be said, don't ever let this happen again. Don't ever do this. It's shown in every team room around the NFL. Don't do this. And that's the thing, I don't get it. Nobody's ever been like, dude, did you see how close to the goal line he dropped it? That was awesome. Like, I've never even heard that as a statement made by anybody.
No.
That's why I don't get it. The other thing is they have the ability in most NFL stadiums to look up at the board and know, A, if they're being chased, or B, am I in the end zone? Let me see myself. By the way, Trent McDuffie said after the game that he only knew Jameis threw the ball on his interception because he saw it, that the ball was thrown, then turned around and made an unreal pick.
Yeah. In that game, Anthony Richardson failed to complete 50% of his passes. How many times this season has Anthony Richardson completed over 50% of his passes?
How many games that he's started?
He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 games.
How many times has he completed over 50 in 10? I'm going to say 4.
Once over. He had one game he went 20 of 30. Twice he completed exactly 50. 3 times exactly 50. So 50 or over, you got it. He was 12 of 24, 10 of 20, 17 of 34, and 120 of 30. Everything else is below. That's not tenable, brother.
That's not good.
No.
No.
All right, we got scores for you. So much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Fans giving away a stealth recliner courtesy of Zip Chair by Dream Seat at the end of the season. Visit zipchair.com to learn more about how to deck out your fan cave with some custom Browns branded furniture. A doubler tonight, not a doubleheader. Simultaneous Monday Nighter. Hello, Gibbe.
Hello, boys. 8 p.m. ABC kicks off tonight's festivities. The Chicago Bears in Minnesota. It is a winter whiteout. The all-white unis tonight for the Vikings.
Minnesota.
Pretty darn good. Vikes, Bears, Zagura, go.
By the way, looking at Green Bay last night, if they just put that yellow stripe, that's all they have to do, and it's perfect.
Clean. I'm almost to the point where
perfect.
I think all white is as much of a cheat code as all black.
Well, that's pretty good.
It's so good. Yeah.
Same. Ram it. Vikes 50, Bears 0. And then in
Same.
the other one, Atlanta.
It's
by
Falcons at Raiders from
Like
Vegas.
at some point, Atlanta has to play.
Gutless Falcons?
They got to do this one. Yeah, they got to. Falcons.
Gutless Falcons.
78, Vegas -1.
Yeah, I see these the same way.
Yeah, that one starts at 8:30.
And these aren't
You
Manning
couldn't flex
cats,
these
right?
out? You couldn't flex?
No Manning on these, right?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
nothing. They're done until
they're out.
Until the wild card.
Ah.
I know. Yeah.
Man, I'll just
I
wait
have
for
not
Thursday
watched
night.
it yet, but did you watch the season finale?
I did.
15.
We'll discuss tomorrow.
Okay.
You'll have time. All right, the next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.